Imagine a story where the greatest danger is not a demon, not a supernatural curse, not even a world-ending catastrophe, but the human heart itself. A story where the line between good and evil, hero and villain, justice and vengeance is blurred until it disappears. That story is Naoki Urasawa's Monster. To understand Monster, we first need to understand Naoki Urasawa, the genius behind it. Urasawa is one of manga's most respected creators, known for complex narratives and multi-layered characters. He started his career in the 1980s, but his defining works came in the 1990s and 2000s, 20th Century Boys, Pluto, and of course Monster. Unlike many manga authors, Urasawa draws heavily from Western influences, European history, crime novels, Alfred Hitchcock-style thrillers, and film noir. He wanted to create stories that went beyond fantasy, that felt painfully real. No magic, no superpowers, just people, their choices, and the consequences. Monster embodies that philosophy completely. Why is Monster set in Germany during the late Cold War and post-Cold War era? The 1980s and 1990s in Europe were a time of political upheaval. The Berlin Wall had fallen, Germany was reunified, and the scars of World War II and the Cold War was still fresh. This setting gave Urasawa a fertile ground to explore themes of identity, morality, and psychological trauma. German history, particularly the legacy of Nazi science experiments, eugenics, and psychological conditioning, feeds directly into the creation of Johann Liebert, the central antagonist. By grounding the story in this very real historical trauma, Urasawa makes his manga feel more authentic and terrifying. This isn't a fantasy world, it's our world, with all its scars. At its heart, Monster is about Dr. Kenzo Tenma, a brilliant Japanese neurosurgeon working in Germany. At the beginning, Tenma faces a moral choice. Should he save the life of an influential politician, which would advance his career, or save a young boy, a stranger who is critically injured? Tenma chooses to save the boy. That choice changes everything. Years later, the boy he saved grows into Johann Liebert, a man who becomes one of the most terrifying figures in manga history, a manipulative, psychopathic monster. The manga follows Tenma's journey across Germany and beyond as he hunts Johann, wrestles with his own conscience, and uncovers the dark secrets behind Johann's creation. But Monster isn't just about a good man versus a villain, it's about morality. What does it mean to be good? Responsibility. Is Tenma guilty for saving Johann's life? Humanity. Can someone who has committed evil be redeemed? The monster within. Could anyone under the wrong circumstances become Johann? Why Monster hits different from other manga? Most popular manga rely on action, fantasy, or supernatural elements. Naruto has ninjas and chakra. Death Note has the supernatural Death Note. Attack on Titan has giant monsters, but Monster has none of that. Instead, it's a realistic, slow-burn psychological thriller. Every danger in Monster comes from human beings. Every twist comes from psychology, manipulation, or ideology. That's why Monster often feels more like a great European crime novel or an HBO series than a manga. From the start, Urasawa makes psychology the beating heart of Monster. Johann represents the perfect manipulation of human fear and weakness. Tenma represents the struggle of morality and guilt. The supporting cast, from Nina to Inspector Lunge, embody different psychological archetypes. Trauma survivors, obsessive pursuers, morally grey allies. This isn't just a story, it's a psychological case study. Each character is broken down, tested, and exposed. What makes Monster so special is that it asks its readers terrifying questions. What would you do if the person you saved turned out to be evil? Do you have a responsibility for what they do afterward? Is evil something people are born with, or something created by the world around them? These aren't easy questions. Urasawa doesn't give easy answers. That's why Monster sticks with people long after they finish reading it. Most manga thrive on constant action. Shonen manga especially are built on a cycle of training, fighting, and escalating stakes. But Monster takes inspiration from European crime novels, Hitchcock thrillers, and noir storytelling, deliberate pacing. Urasawa doesn't rush revelations. He allows tension to build naturally, creating a sense of dread. Silences and pauses. Many panels show quiet, still moments, characters staring, a city street at night, a ticking clock. These moments aren't filler, they're designed to unsettle, gradual layering. Each chapter adds a piece to the puzzle. Readers rarely get the full truth up front, only fragments that later snap into place. This approach makes Monster feel different from traditional manga. Instead of adrenaline, it thrives on suspense and unease. Characters in most manga are defined by power, by abilities, by how strong they can become. But in Monster, characters are defined by their choices, their morality, their guilt, their trauma, and their humanity. Who is Tenma? A Japanese neurosurgeon working in Germany. Brilliant, compassionate, and deeply idealistic. Believes in the sanctity of life above all else. At the beginning of the story, Tenma faces the pivotal choice: save the mayor, a politically powerful patient, or save Johann, a young boy with no social value. Tenma chooses Johann, an act of morality that later becomes his greatest burden, the paradox of responsibility. Tenma is trapped in a paradox. By saving Johann, he upheld his medical oath, but by saving Johann, he indirectly unleashed evil. This paradox drives his arc. Tenma constantly questions, am I responsible for the monster's actions? This taps into philosophical debates. Is morality defined by intention or outcome? Kantian ethics would argue Tenma did right by treating Johann since morality lies in duty. Utilitarianism would argue he made the wrong choice since saving Johann led to greater harm. Urasawa deliberately never gives us a simple answer, forcing readers to wrestle with it. Johann Liebert, the monster. Who is Johann? A boy saved by Tenma who grows into one of the most terrifying villains in manga. Charismatic, intelligent, manipulative, and almost inhuman in his ability to control others. Represents the idea of evil as a void, not chaos, but emptiness. The psychology of Johann. Johann is fascinating because he has no supernatural powers, yet feels more dangerous than any demon or god. His strength lies in understanding human weakness, fear, loneliness, guilt. He uses psychology as his weapon. He doesn't just kill, he destroys souls. Johann manipulates children, convinces people to commit suicide, and bends others to his will. His actions raise the terrifying idea, anyone could become his victim. Johann as a mirror. Johann works as a mirror to humanity. He reflects the darkness within everyone. He proves that the monster isn't an external force, it's inside us. When people give in to their worst impulses, Johann simply nudges them forward. This makes him scarier than a typical villain. He doesn't force people, he exposes what's already there. What is evil? Where does it come from? Is it born within us or created by the world around us? In Monster, Naoki Urasawa doesn't just tell a story. He asks some of the oldest and most terrifying questions in philosophy and psychology, then forces us to look for the answers in ourselves. One of the central questions of Monster is, are monsters born or are they made? Johann seems like proof that some people are born evil, his cruelty appears innate, but his backstory reveals that experiments, trauma, and manipulation shaped him. Nina, his twin, went through similar experiences but chose a different path. This raises the classic psychological debate, nature, biological determinism. Some individuals are predisposed to violence or psychopathy, nurture, environmental influence. Trauma, abuse, and upbringing shape people into what they become. Urasawa doesn't pick a side. Instead, he blurs the line, suggesting evil is both a seed and the soil it grows in, the monster within. The title, Monster, isn't just about Johann, it's about the potential for evil in all of us. Characters across the manga face moments where they could choose cruelty, violence, or despair. Some give in, others resist. Johann isn't a supernatural villain, he's a reflection of what any human could become under the wrong circumstances. This echoes Carl Jung's concept of the shadow self, the hidden darker aspects of our personality. To deny the monster within us is dangerous, to confront it is terrifying but necessary. Nihilism versus humanism. The ultimate philosophical clash in Monster is between nihilism and humanism. Johann, nihilism. He represents the belief that life has no meaning, no value. His actions are designed to prove that human existence is hollow. Tenma, humanism. Despite his guilt and suffering, Tenma continues to believe in the value of life, in compassion, in healing. Nina, Grimmer, Reichwein, and others represent shades of resistance to despair. This clash isn't resolved with a single answer. Instead, Urasawa shows how fragile humanism is in the face of despair, yet how necessary it is to keep living. The banality of evil. A subtle but important theme is how ordinary people contribute to Johann's rise. Politicians protect their own interests. Scientists justify unethical experiments. Ordinary citizens look away from injustice. This reflects Hannah Arendt's concept of the banality of evil. The idea that great atrocities are committed not only by monsters, but by ordinary people obeying orders or avoiding responsibility. In Monster, Johann is terrifying not just because of who he is, but because so many people allow him to exist. Thousands of manga are published every year. Many rise, many fade, but Naoki Urasawa's Monster endures, hailed not only as one of the greatest manga, but one of the greatest thrillers ever written. Why? Because it dares to do what few stories ever attempt. It strips away the comfort of fantasy and forces us to confront the darkness of reality. Most manga rely on fantastical elements. Naruto uses ninjas with supernatural powers. One Piece uses a world of pirates, treasures, and devil fruits. Death Note introduces a magical notebook that can kill. Monster refuses to lean on fantasy. No superpowers, no magic, no Deus Ex Machina rescues. Everything is grounded in real-world logic and psychology. This makes its terror more immediate. Readers can't say, this is just fantasy. Instead, they're forced to think, this could happen. Monster tackles subjects many manga avoid or only skim. Psychological conditioning and trauma, the morality of science and experimentation, the banality of evil in politics and institutions, philosophical nihilism versus humanism. While shonen manga aim to inspire hope and courage, Monster confronts despair head-on. It asks questions most works shy away from, like, does saving a life make you responsible for its consequences? Can kindness become evil when misplaced? Is evil an exception or part of the human condition? By refusing easy answers, Urasawa elevates manga to the realm of serious literature. In a world filled with manga about power, friendship, and fantasy, Monster dares to be different. It strips away the comfort of heroes and the safety of magic, leaving us face to face with the one thing we fear most: ourselves. That is why Monster is not just a manga, it is a mirror, and when we look into it, we might not like what we see. In the end, Monster is not about Johann Liebert. It is not even about Kenzo Tenma. It is about us, our morality, our choices, our fears. Naoki Urasawa holds a mirror to the human condition and asks, what kind of monsters are we capable of becoming? Naoki Urasawa's Monster is a masterpiece of psychological storytelling. It dares to move beyond battles of strength, choosing instead battles of morality. It strips away fantasy and replaces it with terrifying realism. It asks not only whether monsters exist, but whether we ourselves might become them. And that is why, decades after its release, Monster still stands tall. Not just as a manga, not just as a thriller, but as one of the greatest works of human storytelling. If you enjoyed this deep dive, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment below.